here for pretrial conferences. Hopefully everybody can hear me adequately. Let me begin by asking, as usual, is there any counsel that has a conflicting court appearance that needs to be called earlier?
Your Honor, I don't have a conflicting court appearance, but I do have a conflict that I need to address. If I could address mine earlier, that would be better.
All right, Mr. Barger, which case do you have?
I have three cases, Your Honor. The first is with Ms. Brown, Yormes Perez Gonzalez.
Let me turn to that. Ms. Brown is available.
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning.
Greetings. Let me turn to that case. What is the defendant name again?
Yormes, Y-O-R-M-I-S, and then Perez Gonzalez. It's 20 CF 305.
Should be page 15.
Okay, thank you. All right, just one case. Comments from the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. We're still in negotiations. However, we are ready for trial. We would like to go ahead and just keep it as previously scheduled.
Estimated to be 3 to 4 days, is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Has a plea offer been extended and considered?
Mr. Maresca did not. I have requested one from Ms. Brown. I'm sure that within the next little bit, she'll get one to me. And then if we'll know before case calendar call, I would guess.
Okay. Depositions have been completed?
Everything that needs to be completed has been completed, Your Honor.
I don't know if the state had any child hearsay motions still to be addressed or not.
Your Honor, I have a note to look into that. I do not know whether or not we will be filing child hearsay. I will review the file and make that decision as quickly as possible. I also note, Mr. Barger, I wasn't clear whether or not a stipulation was prepared for the CPT video and the CPT summary. So if it is not, if you can let me know so that you can get a copy of that video if you'd like it.
Yes, Ms. Brown.
So at this point, it will remain as scheduled with the calendar call. And Ms. Fuentes, generally speaking, because of the court's own calendar, a change was announced to everyone that the calendar call has moved to next Monday, I believe, the 14th.
Correct, June 14th at 9 a.m.
Okay. And otherwise, trials commencing on Monday, June 28th. Is that correct?
Correct.
Any other comments from the state?
No, Your Honor.
It remains as set for trial. Does the state agree 3 to 4 days if needed?
I do agree 3 to 4 days. Yes, Your Honor.
Will the state be conveying a plea offer?
Yes, Your Honor. I have made a note to review the file and get that taken care of as quickly as I possibly can.
Any other comments?
No, Your
No,
Honor.
Your Honor.
Any other cases, Mr. Barger?
Yes, Your Honor. Two other cases. The next one is Level Ramsey, 20 CF 1098.
Go ahead.
That's with Ms. Mason. Your Honor, an offer has been conveyed. He is in consideration of that offer. What we would ask to do is just keep this as previously scheduled.
Okay. How many days for trial?
I would estimate 2 to 3 days as well on this trial, Your Honor.
Have you received the surveillance video from Circle K?
Yes, Your Honor, we have received everything.
Okay. So no other discovery or motion issues?
No, Your Honor.
Plea offer extended and is being considered, you said?
It is being considered, yes, Your Honor.
Any state comments, Ms. Mason?
For the state, we would simply ask that, well, just would like to put on the record that the plea offer in this case will expire on Friday. And that's just because we need to start getting ready for trial with a lot of witnesses. So the offer will go away on that day.
That's fine, Your Honor.
Length of trial anticipated if needed?
2 to 3 days, Your Honor.
The state would agree.
All right. It remains as set, Ms. Fuentes, the states.
Calendar call June 14th at 9 a.m. Trial cycle June 28th at 9 a.m.
And my last one, Your Honor, is Kenneth Tanksley. It's with Mr. Ashby.
Yes.
We do have a resolution in this matter, Your Honor. He does want to take the state's offer. He did need some time to get his affairs in order before doing that, as it is a DOC offer. We had asked the state for 45 to 60 days. Mr. Ashby, do you have any problem with the date that I emailed you? July 27th. I believe that we have pleas on that day at 10 a.m.
That should be fine.
The only thing, Mr. Barger, is I would insist that, and I don't assume this would be a problem, that on prior to the trial date starting on June 28th, that we do the plea colloquy with the deferred imposition of sentence. Any objection to that?
No objection at all, Your Honor. If you wanted to do that, we could probably do that on calendar call and then defer sentencing till that later day.
Ms. Fuentes, calendar call would work for the plea colloquy?
No, we don't have that, that plea docket after calendar call that day. It would just be calendar call.
Right. But I'm just trying to look at how busy that day is. Let me see what we have.
As of now, we have 55 cases set for calendar call.
What was our other option as far as when we could bring it in for the plea colloquy?
Would be June 17th at 1:30 or 2:30.
Is that a problem for either side or for the defendant?
I would need to check with him, Your Honor.
He is aware of the calendar call date, right?
He is, yes, Your Honor.
Let me just see on that date, what else is scheduled beyond the calendar call. One moment. That's the only thing in the morning, Ms. Fuentes. So if the defendant is already noticed for calendar call, we'll just keep it there and do the plea colloquy only. And the court will agree to a deferred imposition of sentence then, which the state has also agreed to on the July date.
Okay.
All right.
One more, we are that date again. My apologies.
I believe it's July 27th. Is that correct? At 10 a.m.?
That's for sentence imposition. Ms. Fuentes, the plea colloquy would be on what date?
June 14th at 9 a.m.
That's the calendar call.
Correct.
And we'll just do the colloquy then.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Any others, Mr. Barger?
No, Your Honor. Thank you very much.
Very
Your Honor,
good.
if we could, Mr. Barger, if you could hold on just one moment. Your Honor, could we recall the Level Ramsey case?
All right, back to Mr. Ramsey.
And Your Honor, I wanted to make the court as well as Mr. Barger aware that at the time that the state agreed to set this case for trial at this point, we didn't have the witness availability that went out this far. And I did note that we had a witness who submitted his request for time off starting June 28th last November. And the state set this case for trial anyway. Again, we didn't have his availability that far out. And so we have a key witness who's not going to be available. And I assume that this is a witness who's going to be necessary for both the state and the defense.
Is that a lay witness or an officer?
It's an officer, Your Honor. It's actually the lead detective in this case.
So,
Your Honor, the defense has no objection to moving it wherever the state would feel comfortable having their trial and make sure that all their witnesses are available. Would you be willing to give us a calendar call to accept the offer, or if we change it to a different one, give us more than just till Friday?
We
then
can.
we would have no problem.
I don't have a problem doing that. I just wanted to make sure that you, Mr. Barger, and that the court were both aware that we would not be available. We would not be ready to go to trial on June 28th. And again, that's our error.
So in November, the officer made his request. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor. November 16th is when that request went in. We just didn't have it at the time that we agreed to set this case for trial. And it was just because of the way that we printed our witness list.
Okay, because it was called in January and set from January for this date, that the state was not aware or there was an error that occurred there?
That's correct, Your Honor. The officer did put it in, but the way that we were trying a different version of witness availability, and apparently it didn't work, so we went back to the other way. But this witness was not available at the time that we agreed to set it.
And the defense is not objecting. Is that correct, Mr. Barger?
That's correct, Your Honor. That's fine.
All right. So based on the fact that it's the first pretrial conference and all of the other discussion, I will make an exception here and grant the state motion to continue.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Fuentes, when are we looking at based on, this is an out of custody, lower priority matter, I think.
No, Your Honor. He's in custody right now.
Oh, he is?
But the offer that's on the table is he needs to consider it very.
Well, Ms. Fuentes, where do you recommend setting this? It isn't in custody.
October.
Okay, is that a concern for the defense?
No, Your Honor, not at this time.
State has witness availability assured then?
Can I have what is it October 11th through the 22nd?
Correct.
We do not. We have a witness who's out from the 15th to the 25th.
So does the state have availability in September?
September 8th through September 17th.
We do.
What's the length of trial?
I would
2 to
estimate 2 to 3 days.
Okay. So Ms. Fuentes, what are the corresponding dates for September then?
Pretrial August 17th at 9:30. Calendar call August 31st at 9 a.m. Trial cycle September 8th at 9 a.m.
All right,
Thank you.
you're done, Mr. Barger?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Any other defense or state requests for earlier call? Otherwise, I'll take them in order. All right, then beginning with Armando Alvarez, 19 CF 2122, Mr. Nagel, Ms. Wilson.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Greetings.
We were able to get the alleged victim in the case deposed at the facility where he's at, St. Petersburg. So at this point, we now have completed all of the depositions in this case. The state has made a recent offer to resolve the case. I've not yet been able to communicate that to Mr. Alvarez. But other than that, all the work is done in the case at this time.
Length of trial?
I'm going to think that this would be 2-3 days maximum.
No substantial pretrial motions?
I do not see any, Judge, based on the nature of the case and the evidence.
Any state comments?
Yes, Your Honor. As the court recalls, and Mr. Nagel just stated it, the victim is, in this case, is homeless, and so it's taken a long time to be able to actually get him served for depositions, and it's been impossible to actually talk to him. I did talk to him one time, but now he's went into a drug treatment program under a felony case up there in Bradenton, and it was his public defender that helped coordinate, I believe, the deposition. However, the problem is that she hasn't been real receptive to calling either me or Mr. Nagel back, and I've been trying to speak to him in regards to, one, the trial, and two, how long he's going to be in this drug treatment program. And as of this moment, I do not know if he would be available for trial during the week of trial. If we do go ahead and set it and see if something can be done, or if we can get a hold of his attorney, the only thing I'd ask is this be for the first week of trial. I have an officer out at training the second week.
He cannot be released from the program to attend court.
That's what we haven't been able to verify. I've called and she has not returned my call. And I believe Mr. Nagel said he had some issues trying to get up with her on some other matters also.
All right, at this point, it will remain as set. However, the state can further address its circumstances at the calendar call.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Fuentes, the current date set?
Calendar call June 14th at 9 a.m. Trial cycle June 28th at 9 a.m.
All right, next, James Bars, Mr. Nagel, Ms. Wilson, 20 CF 689.
Yes, Judge. This was a case that was sent back, unfortunately, back last October for a plea. The day of the plea, my client was sick and was turned away from the courthouse because he had a high fever. It got moved out from then till today for the pretrial conference. I'm anticipating this is going to be a resolution. I have calls into Mr. Bars. I'm waiting to hear back from him to confirm that this is going to be a resolution, that he still wants to take the plea offer and get this matter straightened out. So
back in November, I thought it was announced that the plea offer had been revoked and or rejected.
no, Judge. And the reason at that time we thought it was because he didn't show up on that special 1023 date. What we found out subsequently was he had come to the courthouse, but he was running a fever. And because under the COVID protocols at that time, they refused to let him into the courthouse. We found that out after that court date, unfortunately.
Any state comments?
Your Honor, we also, the officer in the case is actually an ex-LEO in this case, and has apparently moved out west, and he is going through training for the police academy out there, and will be gone until September 19th, 21 in regards to his training there. So we would need to have a continuance anyway. That was something we would not have known.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. What I'd like to do maybe though is if we could leave this on for the moment for the calendar call to give me time to get back with Mr. Barr to confirm it. If the resolution is going to take place, we could take care of it right then and there on that day.
I would agree with that, Your Honor. I think that would be great.
How significant of a witness is the officer?
He is the only witness in the case that we actually need.
So this was set back in November to this date.
Right.
At that time, he was still part of the force. He left the force after that?
That is my understanding, and Your Honor, because I was not aware that he would be out, but hold on one moment. Okay, yeah, the training is until 9/23, if I did not state that. I had said the 19th, I just was corrected that that's 9/23 that he will be out to. But yes, we were unaware that of his unavailability at that time.
Now, he is now in training with a new law enforcement department?
That's correct, Your Honor.
So, Mr. Nagel, your suggestion is to leave it currently as set with readdress now. Is there any possibility that he can leave that training program to return to testify?
Your Honor, my understanding is they've got him down as unavailable during that training period. I'm assuming that if he's going through a police academy all the way on the west coast of the United States, plus we'd have to pay to fly him in at this point because he is an ex-law enforcement officer. So to be able to do that would be.
When did he notify you that he was now under these circumstances?
One moment, Your Honor. Your Honor, the only thing I'm showing on my list is that he's out during that period. I do not have. One second. I need to get the answer here.
Well, we can revisit this at the calendar call. At this point, it remains as set. I will require the state to provide additional details if the state is seeking the continuance at calendar call.
As I said, I believe that this is going to be a plea. I just need a little more time to talk with him, make sure, get a hold of my client, Judge. That's the only delay, I think, in knowing the answer today.
And Your Honor, we received the notice on 5/25, so we just received the notice that he is not available.
And what triggered the officer providing that notice so late?
Your Honor, I do not know what date he left the Collier Sheriff's Office. So I'm assuming that he got hired out there and then was given a training date, and then he notified us that he was unavailable.
All right, to be readdressed at the calendar call.
Thank you.
Kelvin Dorsent, 19 CF 215 and 2116, Mr. Nagel and Ms. Brown.
Yes, Judge, we have the order to show cause hearing set on that doctor involved in the case. That's set for next week on the 16th. That's the last impediment in this case to completing our work. My plan is to have the order to show cause hearing and depose her that day via depot text, so that should not be an issue so long as she shows up. I do know in the court records indicate she was served with the paperwork for the order to show cause. I've not had any contact from the office, and I don't know if the state has either. So I'm assuming she was
a personal service or an office representative?
Judge, let me give me 1 second. I will tell you. It said I'm going through Showcase to be able to get to tell you that. It says oh, wait a minute. That's the, what is that? I apologize. That's a different subpoena, Judge.
Other than this issue, is the defense otherwise ready?
Other than that, doctor, yes, the doctor is. Other than that, we are ready, Judge. I'm not 100% sure on the service. I see that the order went out. I was looking at it, turned out the wrong the wrong subpoena. It was the different subpoena for a different witness. Thought it was the right one, but the judge, you signed this May 18th, and it was sent. There does not seem to show any return at this point. So I guess we need to wait just and see where we stand at with that. Other than that, yes, this is the only impediment to this case being taken care of.
In the length of trial, one is a VOP.
Yeah, one is a violation of probation has been tagging along with the new law violation. I would
New
think
law is 2 to 3 days for trial.
that's what I'm thinking, Judge, based on the number of witnesses at this point. There are no interpreter issues
Has
involved.
the comprehensive plea offer been extended and considered?
No, Judge, that hasn't been because Mr. Maresca was waiting to get through the depositions and then he left. Ms. Brown and I are in discussions. We want to get that doctor in, and then we can get a formal plea offer conveyed. I think this is a case where there should be a plea offer that would satisfy everyone, but I cannot say for certain at this point.
State comments?
Your Honor, I would agree. My suggestion was going to be, if the court is willing, is to set the calendar call for the same date as the order to show cause, only because coming back on Monday, we won't have any information about whether or not the doctor was served for the order to show cause and appears, which sounds as if it's going to affect our path forward.
So any objection to addressing the calendar call early?
It'd actually be late.
I said later.
No, I agree. I think Ms. Brown hit it right on the nose. It would be better to do it on the 16th after we do that order to show cause and confirm that the doctor is there so that we can get that deposition done and go.
And what date and time is that set for?
June 16th, Your Honor.
And I believe it's 1:30, Your Honor, but I will confirm.
Yes, I actually closed the file for a moment.
My calendar indicates it's at 1:30, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Fuentes,
Yes.
we will keep the trial date as set for the 28th, and we'll move the calendar call specially as requested. All right, thank you. Next, Donald Hanks, 20 CF 401, Mr. Khalil, Mr. Ashby.
Your Honor, Mr. Hanks is still in custody in Tampa. I've spoken with the Hillsborough attorney, and they have a VOP hearing on 6/17 and a jury trial in his new law violation on 6/24. I would suggest to move it back to a case management, but or to continue it at some other later date.
He cannot be transported after his trial for this case?
He can, but those are more serious charges. And so we would prefer to have those charges addressed in Hillsborough first. This will be we previously said a plea to the bench, and we intend to resolve this case with a plea to the bench, or maybe even a global offer, resolving all cases. So there still needs to be some work done on these cases as well.
This, just looking, this was not assigned to trial cycle, Ms. Fuentes, previously?
Let me double check.
Does the state have any comments?
Your Honor, the state's position was that we can bring this after the defendant addresses his charges in Hillsborough. He can be transported down here. I believe Your Honor has a 2-week trial cycle to July 9th. So once his
Yes,
trial,
how many days for trial, Mr. Khalil?
2 days, Your Honor, at most.
Okay, so
they would agree.
I think the state suggestion is a good one. Will the state initiate a transport order, Mr. Ashby?
I don't know where he is. Mr. Khalil is Mr. Khalil's client. So he would have to transport.
You're able to do that?
Yes, Your Honor, we can facilitate that.
All right, so let me go ahead and ask for a transport order, and we'll keep the calendar call date as set. And that is when, Ms. Fuentes?
June 14th at 9 a.m.
However, we'll start the trial if we reach it on the second week which is what date, Ms. Fuentes?
The second week would begin Tuesday, July 6th.
So if you can just tailor the transfer order, Mr. Khalil, for whenever you wish him to be here in advance of that trial date,
Yes, Your Honor.
and we'll see how things sort out with Tampa then.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, Leroy Hernandez, 18 CF 1368 and 1588, Mr. Nagel, Ms. Brown.
Yes, Judge. We've completed the depositions in these matters. We need about 20 minutes on that Monday for a motion in limine, what the motion to suppress turned into based on the review of the matter between myself and Mr. Maresca. It's only going to be a legal argument matter now at this point. It's not an evidentiary issue anymore.
So that would be on the 28th then?
Yes, Judge, I believe that's the Monday, that's that date, so correct. So we, as I said, we could do it then. As I said, it's not a witness issue now. It's simply going to be a legal argument concerning the controlled conversations that were recorded.
Has a comprehensive plea offer been considered?
No, Mr. Maresco did not get me a comprehensive offer. I asked him to, but he was unable to get to it before he left. I've talked to Ms. Brown about it. She's in the process of communicating with the parties in order to get a plea offer. Once I get that plea offer, I am going to talk to my client about it. This may, as I said, this may be a resolution. It's all going to depend on the plea offer and talking to my client. He's in custody, but he speaks English, so it's not a language barrier there at this point.
Length of trial?
Well, the capital one, the newer case, the 1588 case, is going to be the longer. That could be 4 days, maybe 5. There would be recorded communications that would get played during the body of the trial, as opposed to just simple witness testimony.
Does the state intend to proceed on 1588 first, Ms. Brown?
We likely would, Your Honor. And I know Mr. Nagel and I spoke briefly yesterday. I've not had a chance to review the motion to suppress that now may be becoming a motion in limine. I know Mr. Maresca had witnesses subpoenaed. So until I have an opportunity to review that, I'm not comfortable asserting that we won't want to call witnesses, in which case it may not be able to be heard on the morning of trial, Your Honor. I'm happy to review that and advise the court about my position on that next week. But I'm not ready to make that representation, given that witnesses had been previously subpoenaed for this motion.
So the court would still be inclined to hear the motion on the 28th, unless there's some reason it cannot be, but we'll keep it currently for trial as set, including potentially hearing the motion on the 28th. And as currently they stand, Ms. Winters?
Calendar call June 14th at 9 a.m., trial cycle June 28th at 9 a.m.
Does the state intend to extend a comprehensive plea offer?
We will, Your Honor, yes.
Okay. Anything else on these two?
No, Judge, as I said, Ms. Brown and I will be in constant communication, so we have no problem with that.
Losner Jean Baptiste, 18 CF 29, Mr. Nagel, Mr. Ashby. Is there an interpreter needed in Creole for this case?
I would like to have one for the trial, Judge. Simply, my client speaks a great deal of English, but my concerns are that at a trial, there would be something that might not get communicated properly. I've talked with him quite a bit without an interpreter, but as I said, start using certain legal terms, and I'm just not completely sure that would be best. So I am going to put in a request for it. However, Mr. Jean-Baptiste is in my lobby right now waiting. He showed up today. I'm going to be speaking with him after we get done court today and speaking with Mr. Ashby to see if we can get this resolved. But at this point, we can leave it on as the calendar call as we stand that.
Were previous competency issues addressed?
That was addressed, Judge. We had doctors. Our first doctor opined that there was a learning disability. Subsequent doctors found they believe there was no competency issue. The more I've talked with the client recently, I have no reason to believe that there is a competency issue. So relying on that second report that was done in the case.
Was a competency written order entered?
That I don't recall, Judge, at this moment, without going back through showcase.
Your Honor, there was on January 25th, there was a hearing. The court made an oral pronunciation finding the defendant competent, but an order was not submitted. So the state will submit an order for the court to enter in and find the defendant competent.
That's fine. We were there for the hearing. I agree that we had it and that the court did make the finding so that we were able to.
From January, just memorializing the ruling made January 25th?
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Length of trial if needed?
2 days, I would say.
I would agree. 2 to 3 days at most.
All right, Ms. Fuentes, dates as they now stand?
Calendar call June 14th at 9 a.m. Trial cycle June 28th at 9 a.m.
All right, one of the more interesting scenarios next. Mario Lorenzo Francisco, 2 cases, 18 CF 14, as well as.
I believe he only has 1 case, Your Honor.
Okay, yes.
It just felt like 2. Going on for a long time with CONSEQUENTIal interpreter issues.
Yes, Judge. That issue has been ameliorated at this point. I put in the request after the last court proceedings for her. I am actually going to be speaking with Mr. Lorenzo Francisco at the jail with her assistance this afternoon. So.
Oh, what's the name of the lady that we've come to know?
Ms. Carmen Mendez, Your Honor.
Mendez, okay.
Yes.
And she will be available for the trial cycle?
That is my indication. I put the request in through the interpreter's office, which is standard procedure. They wanted to make sure it was set as the trial certain before they officially booked her, but she is aware of the trial. I've spoken with Ms. Mendez, so I'm under the belief that it's been taken care of.
Okay, and obviously this has gone to many calendar calls and is now a priority. He's in custody. The interpreter issue has been a huge thing. And what would be the length of trial on Mr. Nagel?
I'm going to say 5 days, Judge, because there is audio recordings on top of witness testimony. There is another witness in the case on the state side who also will be requiring CONSEQUENTIal translation services. We're only going to have Ms. Mendez. We're not going to be able to rotate Spanish, like with Spanish interpreters. They would rotate through the trials to give each other relief. We're not going to have that in this situation. It's just going to be Ms. Mendez and nobody else.
So are there any motions from the defense still pending?
No, Judge, all those, the motion to suppress, we've had the hearing on the judge. You ruled on that motion already. That was the pretrial motion.
The offer still being considered?
We haven't had negotiations in a while, Judge, primarily because I've not been able to communicate with my client due to the restrictions with COVID and the travel restrictions that have been put in place in order to use Ms. Mendez's services to speak with him. I will see where he stands at today and see if there's any further negotiation that's going to take place. We had offers and counter offers without both sides being willing to come in to close the gap. There may not be a resolution in this case.
So Ms. Brown came in at a late time with huge expectations. Are we able to go forward on the state side?
Your Honor, unfortunately, we are not. My notes indicate that when this case was set for trial and we subpoenaed the witnesses, at that time, Mr. Maresca was not aware. The arresting officer is unavailable the entire trial cycle. He's a necessary witness as he took the statement of the defendant. In addition, Dr. Rumberger is unavailable. I know the court has been dealing with Dr. Rumberger's leave issues, and I share the frustration as it relates to that. But based on my review, she also appears to be a necessary witness. There are 2 other officers who are also unavailable during the trial cycle, all of whom's leave was submitted before our office subpoenaed them. I had explained to Mr. Nagel yesterday these issues and that the state would be requesting a continuance in order to ensure that all of these witnesses will be available given the serious nature of these charges.
So the better question then becomes, what's the soonest that all of these witnesses can be available?
Well, Your Honor, the soonest that all of the witnesses, including Dr. Rumberger, can be available would be Your Honor's November 1st complex trial cycle. However, I understand the issues with Dr. Rumberger's constant leave. And if the court is not willing to continue it out that far to accommodate Dr. Rumberger, the soonest that all of the officers would be available and we'd have sufficient time to try the case would be Your Honor's September cycle.
So how would the state proceed without Dr. Rumberger?
The state's preference would be to have Dr. Rumberger, Your Honor.
Is she,
Mike,
from the
I'm
state's
sorry.
perspective, is she an essential witness?
She did the medical evaluation on the child. So from the state's perspective, I believe that she is. The November 1st is Your Honor's complex cycle. That is 5 days. I think that may help alleviate the tangible interpreter issue because I believe Your Honor doesn't typically set cases on his complex cycle because it's typically reserved for depositions. But if the court would be willing to set it there, that would be my preference.
What assurance would there be, Mr. Nagel, that the conhobal interpreter would be available at a future date?
I will speak with her this afternoon. I don't believe, with us being in court, it's a little difficult for me to try and call her right now, but I could certainly take care of that. I could give the court an update in a day or so. As I said,
Well, I think just by the calendar call is fine.
Oh, yes, I can definitely have it by then.
Does the defense object to the state's request?
My problem is, Judge, that I'm not going to be available in that September trial cycle. That's the one for which the state could possibly go forward. If it was done sooner, I'd be wanting to do it sooner, but September is going to be a problem for me as well. Other than that date, the other dates are fine.
What assurance is there, Ms. Brown, that even if this court were to go to November, that Dr. Rumberger would be available then?
Well, my understanding from Dr. Rumberger's most updated leave is she has approximately 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks of November, that she is currently not scheduled to be anywhere. So if the court were to grant the continuance, we would be issuing a subpoena for her immediately for those dates because she's indicated those are the 2 weeks that she is available.
What about the state's other witnesses?
Your Honor, the state's other witnesses don't share Dr. Rumberger's significant leave issues and would be available as, like I said, as soon as the September cycle. And I apologize, Mr. Nagel, when we spoke yesterday, he had mentioned to me September and it had slipped my mind that he was unavailable in September. Otherwise, Your Honor, I don't know if the court has an October cycle. I apologize. I don't have the court's calendar memorized quite yet.
October 11th through October 22nd.
Or 11th through the 22nd.
Correct.
That would also work for all of the state's witnesses with the exception of Dr. Rumberger.
Well, if we're going to go out that far, I would probably then be inclined to give the state a final opportunity to get Dr. Rumberger in the case, since she is described as being essential. But I would not be inclined to go any later because of Dr. Rumberger.
I understand, Your Honor.
Does the state believe, like Mr. Nagel, that this can be done in 5 days or less?
I do, yes.
So, Ms. Fuentes, I see that, and is Dr. Rumberger and the other state witnesses available that week of November 1 through the 5th?
Yes, they would be. All of those state's witnesses, based on the information I have in front of me, are available November 1st through November 5th.
And Ms. Fuentes, that is a complex trial week, is that correct?
It is, Your Honor, but I just double checked and I don't think we're setting trials on the complex trial cycle just yet. The regular standard trial cycle would be November 15th through November 26th with 8 days.
Well, we've got a holiday there on the 25th and 26th.
That's why it's 8 days, Your Honor, as opposed to 10.
That's what?
I believe that's why it's only 8 days, Your Honor, as opposed to 10 days.
Oh, I see. Yeah, it is 8 days up to the 25th.
Yes, sir.
So is Dr. Rumberger and the other witnesses available in that area of the 15th through the 24th?
She is not, Your Honor. She is available only November 1st until November 13th.
that week of the 8th, Ms. Fuentes, is not available. Is that correct? That's a different setting of other cases, right?
Correct. I just double checked with Melissa and she says, we don't know if we're setting them there yet.
Well, every indication we've had is that things are reopening. And if we're given the authorization to use the complex trial week, that would be where we would have it. It would remain there. So let me, at this point, leave things as set and have the parties confer further with the CONSEQUENTIal interpreter, check further on witness ability, talk between yourselves. And I'm looking at possibly that November trial week, with this case being given the #1 priority, because with the CONSEQUENTIal and Rumberger issues, it has to be #1.
Yeah, and Judge, that will make, I think that will make it easier with the court interpreter's office and booking her officially, because they're concerned that they don't want to, or at least have indicated they didn't want to book her as a tentative and get stuck with a bill if things got changed. That's fine with the defense, Judge. Obviously, we'd like to get it done on that November 1st, and we'll be available if the court can find any courtroom to do it with permission.
And we're confident that it could finish in that November 1 through 5.
Yeah, yes, Judge. As I said, I think 5 days is with the caution of the extra time with the interpreter. And I guess if we had to stay late on a couple of days, 30 minutes, if it's what it took, you know, I'd be willing to do that just to make sure we got it done in the window.
All right.
Yes, Your Honor.
Let's revisit this then at the calendar call. We'll leave it as set, but with the idea that this may likely come back on November 1st through the 5th as the #1 priority case because of its unique history.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Let's next look at Ruben Martinez, 20 CF 1183, Mr. Nagel, Ms. Brown.
Yes, Judge. We did get the civilian depositions done recently, and Ms. Brown is in the process of getting the chance to review those depositions. I believe that those depositions shed some interesting facts into the case based on what was said by these witnesses, which may have a significant effect on the resolution in this matter. Other than that, the defense has completed everything and is ready for trial. Mr. Martinez is bonded out of jail at this point, so I've been in communications with him since he got out of jail, so I know that's not an issue there.
Length of trial?
I would say 2 days, maybe 2.5. Just 3 days would be the maximum with a cushion for protection.
I would agree.
No motions?
No, Judge, I don't see any motions at this point. There's no.
Plea negotiation?
That's where we're standing at, Judge. Ms. Brown needs to review the matter so that we can come out with one. Mr. Moreska did not actually convey one to me. He was waiting for the depositions, and then I believe he had somebody covering the depositions for him that day, so he wasn't even there at that point.
Ms. Brown, any comments?
Your Honor, I would agree. I will review this to send a plea offer. Mr. Nagel made me aware of the depositions and the conflicting testimony, and I will review that.
No state issues on the trial cycle?
No, Your Honor, none that I am aware of.
All right, Ms. Fuentes?
Calendar call, June 14th at 9 a.m., trial cycle, June 28th at 9 a.m.
All right, next is Jose Matias, Mr. Nagel, Ms. Mason.
Actually, Judge, it's Matthias, Jose Matthias.
Matthias, he pronounces it in the Spanglish or English version?
Well, unfortunately, my Spanish has turned into Spanglish.
Okay.
It's not very good.
He pronounces it Matthias.
Matthias is how I thought it would be pronounced.
All right, tomato, okay?
Yes.
We'll give him his wish.
So.
20 CF 1511, Ms. Mason for the state. This was previously requested in January to be set for trial for today's date by the defense. Any changes, Mr. Nagel?
Yes, Judge. Unfortunately, this was a case where the depositions were set during the time when we were hacked with the computers. I was unable to have access to the materials I needed to do the depositions. They're in the process of being rescheduled. Additionally, Ms. Mason contacted me in the last couple of weeks about a witness issue they had on their side, and I signed a stipulated motion to continue the matter based on the two issues there. I don't see where it got, if it made it to the court's records or not. I know Ms. Mason was out at the point when I returned the documents to her. So
Ms. Mason, the state is joining this request?
Yes, Your Honor, we are.
Okay. State has a witness, essential witness problem?
We do, Your Honor. I think this was something that we had decided. It was a witness who was previously subpoenaed, but once I was made aware that those depositions needed to be reset, then when that witness requested some time off, I did speak with Mr. Nagel about it. We knew that those depositions needed to be reset and that this case most likely would not be able to go to trial. And so, although we have not released him from the subpoena just yet, he has requested to take that time off.
Based on it being the first pretrial conference and it being a joint request, court will grant the continuance request, requesting to be set for when? I'm assuming, Ms. Fuentes, we'd be going to October actually?
October.
yes.
He's out of custody. Any objection?
No, Judge, I was about to say he was out of custody, so that is not a issue with him being detained.
Ms. Fuentes, what are the dates?
Pre-trials, September 21st at 9 a.m. Calendar call, October 5th, 9 a.m. Trial cycle, October 11th, 9 a.m.
Grady Morris, 19 CF 353, Mr. Khalil, Mr. Ashby. Mr. Khalil, are you available? All right.
Yes, Your Honor, we can remain, keep this as set.
Any state request?
No, Your Honor, we can remain as set.
Length of trial if needed?
2 to 3 days at most.
All right, Ms. Fuentes.
Calendar call, June 14th at 9 a.m. Trial cycle, June 28th at 9 a.m.
Next is Ricardo Rodriguez, 20 CF 741, Mr. Khalil, Ms. Wilson.
Your Honor, if we can set this for a plea date.
Can we enter the plea? What would be the, well, Ms. Fuentes, where would you suggest?
June 28th, the date of trial.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Ms.
Yeah.
Wilson?
That's fine.
Then if it does not resolve in a plea, then it would potentially start the trial on that date,
Yes, Your Honor.
and both sides understand?
Let me, 1 second, Your Honor, just want to double check because I thought it was actually going to be set for a plea before the trial date, so.
Do we have a date before, Ms. Fuentes?
Is the defendant in custody?
Out of custody.
Out of custody?
Mhm.
I don't have any out of custody dates before then.
Your Honor, I do not have a problem if we needed to go to trial on this case, as long as it went the first week.
All right, so it remains as set. However, plea agreement can be entered on the 28th. All right. Then we have Pedro Banencio, 19 CF 1092, as well as 19 CF 1098. This is an interpreter case, Mr. Ward.
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Ashby for the state. Defense requested this case to be set for trial this cycle back in January. Any changes, Mr. Ward?
Judge, we've reached a negotiated resolution. He's out of custody. If we could set it for a plea on any date, that's amenable.
Ms. Fuentes, you're still suggesting the 28th then, is that correct?
Correct.
Any objection, Mr. Ashby?
No objection, Your Honor.
If not resolved on the 28th, it would be ready to proceed to trial?
Not from this for the state, Your Honor. This was a case that was set when our availability unfortunately went out 4 months. I do have my arresting officer that is out for this trial cycle, and that we were unaware of when we first set it, but that leave was put in quite a while before that the case was set for trial.
Okay, but you're still optimistic it will resolve, Mr. Ward?
Yes, if we could go to a plea date and then if it doesn't resolve, set it for trial from there.
Is the state affected on both cases by this witness issue?
Yes, Your Honor. It's the same witness for both cases.
Okay. All right, so at this point, it will be set for plea agreement on the 28th, only plea agreement. If not resolved on that date, it will move to another trial cycle.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Robert Washington, 20 CF 961, Mr. Khalil, Ms. Mason.
No, we can leave that as set.
Currently set for trial, Ms. Mason.
Your Honor, the state remains ready.
Length of trial anticipated?
2 to
The
3
state-
days as well.
How much?
I would say 2 to 3.
The state would agree, Your Honor. No more than, I don't think it would be more than 2 days.
No motions?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Fuentes?
Calendar call June 14th at 9 a.m. Trial cycle June 28th at 9 a.m.
And the offer will expire at the calendar call.
Thank you. I'll let him know.
Jabri Williams, 19 CF 1524, Mr. Nagel, Ms. Mason.
Let me get myself off mute there so I can actually be heard. Judge, Mr. Williams bonded out of jail and subsequently got rearrested on new felony charges. He's got his case management on the new case set on Thursday. I'd like to put both of these cases together because if we're gonna get a resolution, I'd like to do it as a joint as opposed to having separate dates. And if not, then we could have the 2 cases set to go to trial together. I'm looking at the list for witnesses in the new case. The deposition should not take that long. They're local people. It's 1 civilian and a couple of officers are all I need to depose. In the new case, that shouldn't take too long. We could figure for an October for trial date for both cases at this point. On the case that's currently on the pretrial docket, we have Abigail Perrick, one of the last civilian witnesses. She's set for deposition on the 21st of this month. This is the second time with her. If she doesn't show up at this point, then I am going to do an order to show cause against her at this point.
Well, Ms. Mason, regardless of Mr. Williams' alleged new legal problems, is the state ready to go forward on this case, which is starting to get a bit old now?
Yes, Your Honor, the state has no issues with going forward on the 28th.
Is the state's witness available for deposition prior to the trial date?
As far as I know, I don't have any information saying that she's not. So I believe she is set for the 21st, and I can certainly make a phone call to her today just to make sure.
Has the state extended a comprehensive plea offer on both cases?
On both cases, let me just double check. I don't know if we have on both, Your Honor.
No, there was an offer initially made on the one case. We were in negotiations when the second case arose.
And that's correct, Your Honor. The new arrest, the arrest on the new case was back in April, so it's fairly recent.
What's the anticipated length of trial? 4 to 4 days?
I would think so.
The state would agree.
And there's 1 witness to be deposed, Mr. Nagel?
Yes, Judge, that's Ms. Perrick. So that's the one. There was a second witness at Tech Soto. That's last attempt to serve her was unsuccessful from the defense side. So I don't know for sure what she would have to offer. There were no statements. There was, I believe, a brief written statement provided in the discovery. Other than that, I have no anticipation how.
At this point, the court is unwilling to continue this case based on a new arrest. That can be either resolved by a comprehensive plea offer or separately later. Court will keep this as set for trial. Obviously, the defense will have the right to, it is a state witness, is that correct?
Yeah, yes, Judge, these are state witnesses.
The defense will have a right to depose the witness before testifying or to seek the exclusion or other sanction if appropriate, depending on the circumstances.
Yes, Your Honor, and the state will also, we will make a comprehensive offer within the next day or 2 to resolve both cases, but otherwise the state is ready to proceed to trial in this case.
Ms. Fuentes, dates again?
June 14th at 9 a.m. Calendar call June 14th at 9 a.m. Trial cycle June 28th at 9 a.m.
And the last case of the morning for this session, Yordani Zaldivar, 20 CF 864, Mr. Khalil, Ms. Wilson.
Your Honor, we can leave this one as set as well.
All right.
Your Honor, the state would request that also, even though I do have a law enforcement officer who has recently asked for some time off, but this is a a victim who's related to the defendant who we're just having some issues with, and we'd like to see if they're going to appear on that date or if they're going to contact me beforehand. So instead of asking for a continuance at this time, I'd rather leave it set.
Length of trial anticipated?
2 days.
Ms. Fuentes?
Calendar call, June 14th at 9 a.m. Trial cycle, June 28th at 9 a.m.
All right, I believe that completes the pretrial conferences for public defender, and we will next resume at 10:30 a.m. with private counsel. I will just simply mute at this time.
times, and then I've offered to take responsibility for the accounting department away from Brian, and he never relinquished it because now I know why, because I assume they were honest, but they're not.
Yeah.
That's why he never wanted really my help. So
Here we are.
I always get nervous when people come in and don't mute themselves.
Thank you, Sal.
There's a bunch of you out there. Thank you.
Okay, follow up with Mr. Jones also.
No, I thought this was a feature outside the meeting.
All right, Carter County Circuit Court.
All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you. Please be seated. We are here for the second session of the morning on pretrial conferences. And is there any counsel that needs to be called earlier due to conflict of any other appearances? Anyone fall in that category?
Judge, I'm currently in trial with Judge Foster, and he took a recess to address, so I could address my case.
All right, Ms. Cunningham, In regard to the Zutton case, is Ms. Boyson connected?
Yes, Your Honor, I'm here.
All right, let me turn to the Zutton case. 18 CF 798. And any comments to begin with from the defense?
No, Your Honor, we are on track, hoping to go June 28th. So the court, we did get some additional discovery, but it turned out it was for the wrong defendant. I know Ms. Cunningham is checking on that because that just came in yesterday and we're getting close to the wire here. They do have anything additional to send.
Ms. Cunningham, is the state able to go forward in this homicide trial on the 28th?
Yes, Your Honor, we are ready. I expect this case to take most likely 7 days. The discovery that Ms. Boyson mentioned came from the FBI. We were actually a little bit surprised to get it, and then we realized it did not relate to this case. So we are in contact with them to figure out if they had something new, or as I suspect, it was sent to us in error.
So the state, Ms. Boyson, is estimating 7 trial days. That includes jury selection, Ms. Cunningham?
Yes, Your Honor, it does.
And we are now, based on the Supreme Court's latest order, effective, I believe it's the 21st, if I'm recalling correctly. The pandemic restrictions are being loosened, and we should not have as many obstacles with regard to assembling and conducting the trial. Ms. Boyson, what's your estimation of the length?
I would agree with Ms. Cunningham's assessment on that.
So that particular...
I'm sorry, Judge.
Go ahead.
The only other thing that I would add is there are a tremendous amount of witnesses in this case, many of whom are coming from out of state. So this is not the type of trial where we could find out, be a backup trial. In the morning, I'll find out that we were going. I believe this is one of the oldest, if not the oldest cases on the trial docket. So we would probably need to know at calendar call that we were the case that was set so that we could arrange for all of the travel for all these witnesses.
Will there be a need for an extraordinary number of jurors?
Judge, this is a homicide case, so I would say we probably need probably at least 50 jurors.
I'm not aware of any problems assembling that number. Looking at the trial schedule, Ms. Fuentes, it would start on the 28th. There is a coverage issue I have to address for drug court, which I'm covering drug court on the 29th. So we would likely be skipping to Wednesday. And then the only other day affected is Monday, the 5th of July, which is a holiday. But it looks like we would have 7 or 8 days there, Ms. Fuentes.
Double checking right now.
And what's the maximum number of days that the parties estimate for this case?
No more than 10.
So that
I was gonna say 8 days, Judge, maximum.
I really think we'll get it done within the 7.
I agree.
Yeah, we would have 8 days.
So is it, do the parties believe that it's safe to schedule for that trial cycle based on the number of days available?
Yes, Judge.
Ms. Boyson? All right, and I know this case has been called many times previously. Mr. Zutton is in custody. It is a homicide. It has been attempted to be reached for trial previously. So at this point, both sides are requesting this to be a priority. I'm inclined to give it that. I will need to hear from the other cases, but certainly by calendar call, I can give you the assurance. But right now, this should be absent some other case comments. I probably would put this at the #1 slot. Any other discovery or motion issues that need to be addressed on the morning of trial or prior?
I'm aware of.
Not that I'm aware of either, Judge.
All right, then everything has been discussed. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. May I be excused?
Yes. Any other counsel that has a conflicting commitment that needs to be called earlier?
Yes, Judge, I need to be in front
Attorney
of Judge.
Lopez, you have a hearing.
All right, we'll take.
Mine said 11, so yours is earlier.
All right, Mr. Lopez, what time is your conflict at?
Mine is at 11, so if the other counsel needs to go more urgently, then that's fine.
Mr. Bazaz?
Yes, Judge, I need to get back to Judge McPhee now for a TPR trial.
Go ahead, Mr. Bazaz. Which case do you have?
I have two cases. It's the same defendant, last name Fuller. They're 2020 cases.
All right.
And I'm still ready.
So 20 CF 975, as well as 20 CF 996, Ms. Brown for the state. Defendant announcing ready on both cases.
Your Honor, the state does not have any witness issues, so the state would be ready. I can determine at calendar call which case will be going first. I would note that I am I'm also on the Zutton homicide trial. So I anticipate that I'll only be able to be in one place at one time, but these cases are ready and can remain as set.
The estimated length of trial was not to exceed 4 days. Is that still the current estimate?
Was that on each or total, Your Honor? Do you know?
On each.
It would certainly not exceed 4 days.
Mr. Bazaz, any discovery or motion issues not addressed?
No, Judge.
Has there been a comprehensive plea offer considered?
Yes, Judge. It's rejected.
All right. Then it remains as set for trial on both cases. Ms. Fuentes, the dates?
Calendar call June 14th at 9 a.m. Trial cycle June 28th at 9 a.m.
Any others, Mr. Bazaz?
No, Judge. Thank you very much.
Mr. Lopez, you're on the, I recall the defendant, but not the name right now. Which case are you on, Mr. Lopez?
Coleman.
That's Mr. Coleman, all right.
18 CF 864, I believe it's Coleman.
Yes. What is the defense status on this?
Where would he go? If you recall, last time we were up, the defendant asked for more time to either assess my representation or to further coordinate with me. And I did speak with them several times. So at this point, we're ready to go.
So any issues involving your representation have been resolved at this point?
Yeah, I spoke with him and about my representation. He was reluctant, but ultimately he agreed to go along with me.
All right. And at this point, still estimating a trial length of 3 to 4 days?
Yes, that's what we expect.
Okay. Any other discovery or motion issues not previously addressed?
No, everything else is done.
All right. For the state, Ms. Brown, any comments?
Yes, Your Honor. On this case, we do have an ex-law enforcement officer who is currently living out of state. She's unavailable through July 1st, so I would request that this go second week. I would note that I'm scheduled to be out of town beginning on the afternoon of the 8th and the 9th of July, but I believe that leaves us ample time to try this case. We can certainly leave it on calendar call, and then my request will be second week if this case is going. I would also note, counsel, that I don't see the stipulation for the disclosure of the CPT video and the summary. I may have missed it, but if you don't have those items, you'll need to prepare the appropriate motion to obtain those items.
State witness, is that an essential witness, Ms. Brown?
She is, Your Honor. She was the arresting officer.
All right. And is there any reason that unavailability was not previously announced?
Your Honor, based on my review, it doesn't appear as if we were aware of it at the time that Mr. Maresca set this case for trial.
Well, it looks like it was set here from July 19th, which is very recent.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I missed that.
Excuse me, I misstated the month, but it appears that this trial cycle was set on April 19th, which is very recent.
Yes, Your Honor, I believe that it was set for trial in April based on my review of showcase, and it was continued at the defense's request. So that may have been that Mr. Maresca simply didn't have his witness sheets because he expected the case to be a trial in April.
So the state is asking to go forward on what date?
It'd be the second week of Your Honor's cycle. So we don't need to continue it off the cycle. I would just request that we begin, if it is going to proceed to trial and the homicide is not trying, that it begin on the 6th of July.
Okay, but I thought I heard the state having a conflict the 8th and 9th.
Your Honor, I'm scheduled to be out of town beginning on the afternoon of the 8th. But it's local travel. So I believe that we could complete this case in the 6th and the 7th. And if it runs into the 8th, it runs into the 8th.
All right. So, Mr. Lopez, you are seeking to try to go forward on this trial cycle. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. And for the court's information, is I will be out the week of the 19th, but I think that's after the time we're considering.
All right. So, Ms. Fuentes will note this case. If we are able to reach it, we'll start on the 6th of July. Please restate the dates and times applicable.
Calendar call June 14th at 9 a.m. Trial cycle June 28th at 9 a.m.
That addresses Coleman. Any other cases, Mr. Lopez?
No, that's it. Thank you.
All right. Any other counsel, prosecution, or defense that has a conflict for time?
Morning, Judge Brock Frazier. I had two cases I'd like to call out of order, and I've got one of my colleagues will handle the remaining cases I have, but I have Prizer with Miss Mead, and I've got Valentine with Mr. Thompson.
All right, let's begin with Ms. Prizer. Ms. Mead, are you connected? Yes, you are.
I am, Your Honor.
18 CF 1490, as well as a previous case.
18 CF 1289, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. And this is the 1289 is also a homicide case, the more serious of the two.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Either counsel wish to lead off?
Your Honor, I'm requesting a continuance. I have two major issues. First of all, I've been attempting to obtain a blood spatter expert. It is extremely difficult to find one that will work for the rates established by the JAC. And I've exhausted the list of experts that are available through the JAC. So we've narrowed it down to 2 to 3 experts. I'm going to have to set that for a motion with Your Honor, because I anticipate that JAC is going to object.
How critical to the defense is this particular type of expert?
It's extremely critical, Your Honor.
Okay.
There is one witness to the offense, and we believe, based on our review of the evidence so far, that the blood spatter in the case is not at all consistent with that witness's testimony.
Okay, additional comments?
My second issue is really with my client. If you may recall, Ms. Prizer, we had set up prior to COVID a court date where she could be brought over to speak to me. And then everything was shut down completely. I believe that was back in December. And so the only way we've been able to make contact with our clients in the jail over the last several months is either through video or over the phone. Ms. Prizer will not attend a video conference. She does not trust that we are not being listened to by jail personnel. And we speak via phone, but it is not regarding facts of the case, because she will not discuss facts of the case either. So she did call me this morning. I spoke to her and explained to her that the jail visitation opened up last week, and I would like to schedule a visitation to come over and see her so we can actually sit down in person and go over all of the evidence in her case. I've been supplying her all of the discovery, and she will call me sporadically to discuss what she's received without getting into the facts of the case. So hopefully I will be able to visit her sometime next week in person, which will assist me greatly, because honestly, since I've taken this case, I have not had any time other than one court appearance to sit down and speak with her about anything of substance, since she will not talk over the phone or via video.
As far as you can tell, the competency finding of competency and restoration still applies?
Yes, Your Honor, I don't believe that she's incompetent. She has understood everything that I've sent her. I've sent her copies of the discovery, asked her to review it. She just will not talk over the phone or visit with me over video because she doesn't trust that the sheriff's office isn't listening to our conversations. So I don't know that that necessarily is abnormal. I think a lot of my clients feel that way.
Well, and I understand there are mental health issues that have been documented in this case.
There was.
At this point, where do you see the defense being in terms of the discovery and motion process?
Your Honor, I would say that with regards to the motion for the expert, I can bring that soon. Because like I said, we've narrowed it down to at least 2 to 3 experts that we believe are qualified to review the evidence in this case and participate. We also have depositions set later this month of the DNA analyst that is set later in June. I would ask that we continue it perhaps to an August date. I would imagine that the motions would have been heard before then.
Mr. Frazier, do you anticipate that there will be a need for the state to involve any additional experts depending on the appointment of an expert for the defense?
Yes, Your Honor, we would have to make that determination if the defense did so choose to disclose an expert report. And given that that is a central issue in the case and that where we were set for this trial cycle, I think back in November of last year, it was a little optimistic that we could be ready here. Although it's not ideal, where the state has no objection to the defense request and the potential for a defense expert, it may be the most appropriate setting to put this on a complex case management and we can assess the defense status on JAC approval and their expert witness.
How many days estimated for trial by the state on this?
Without factoring in anything for an expert, there is a volume of physical evidence and there was a team of forensic analysts involved with collection, probably 7 to 8 days, including jury selection.
Any other concerns from the defense?
No, Your Honor, I think 7 to 8 days is probably correct as far as length of trial, although that could change depending upon expert testimony.
Okay, not to exceed 10?
I don't believe that it would exceed 10, Your Honor.
Ms. Fuentes, looking out at our trial cycles upcoming, particularly as we go from September to November, do you see a trial cycle that might have 10 days available?
September has 8 days. November has 8 days.
Okay. Do counsel wish to set on a trial cycle with 8 days available?
Well, the state's concern there, Your Honor, is I did go through witness availability, and we can work to fit the trial in that range, but the issue for the state would be that we would then be sending out subpoenas. That is holiday season. We'd be asking people to make accommodations, and we're not certain whether we could leave it set at that time based on the outstanding issue with the defense expert.
The state agrees with the defense at this point that this was set from an earlier date, much earlier in 2020, that it's simply not ready at this time. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor. We really need to address that issue with the defense expert because that is such a central and contested issue.
All right. The state is suggesting a complex case management date from which we would then set an appropriate trial cycle?
Yes, Your Honor. That's the state's request.
Any objection, Ms. Mead?
No, Your Honor. I believe that's appropriate.
All right. Given the magnitude of the charge and everything discussed, the court will schedule as requested, Ms. Fuentes. And when would you think that would be productive, Mr. Frazier?
I would defer to Ms. Mead. She's going to be better suited to address the timing of the motion and
Are we looking
the
at
explanation.
August or September for that, Ms. Mead?
August is fine, Your Honor.
Ms. Fuentes, for complex case management, do we have an August date?
August 20th at 9 a.m.
Any objection to that date?
No, Your Honor.
No objection from the state.
I will require the defense to move forward with its expert motion forthwith prior to that date.
I will, Your Honor, absolutely.
Okay, that addresses both cases to track together. Mr. Frazier, you request to be heard on another matter?
Yes, Your Honor. 19 CF 2365, defendant named Christopher Valentin.
And defense counsel on Mr. Valentin.
Good morning, Your Honor. Harold Thompson on behalf of Mr. Valentin.
Okay. Hello, Mr. Thompson. Go ahead, Mr. Frazier.
So, Your Honor, we're currently scheduled for the June 29th trial cycle. Where we stand, I have briefly communicated with Mr. Thompson late last week, a little bit into the weekend. It does not look like we're going to be in a position where the defense is going to be able to go forward as scheduled. But given the specific scenario, the state would have no objection if we set the case to go forward in trial in September.
If this was set, Mr. Thompson, from back in November of 20, what seems to be the impediment after that much passage of time?
Well, Your Honor, I do want to apologize to the court and Mr. Brock. One of our issues have been, as everyone else has encumbered, this COVID-19
Are you able to
situation.
increase the volume on your end, Mr. Thompson?
Sure. Give me 1 second, Your Honor.
And Your Honor, not to go into any of the particular specifics of what's been transpiring in the case, there is one point where I would agree, based on my conversation with Mr. Thompson late last week, that there was a misunderstanding between the parties, and we have, started the process of making sure that we're on the same page with where we stand.
The state believes it's in the state interest as well as the defense then to continue this, is that correct?
Yes, we'll be asking for a continuance as well, Your Honor, because we were attempting to do some things to work this case out, but it was just a lot, like Mr. Brock said, it was some miscommunication and things kind of fell between the cracks on my end. And I plan on visiting my client down in Collier County, go over auto discovery with him, and then we're going to rehash the information that we previously discussed and see where we can go from there. But I believe September should be more than enough to facilitate what we need to do.
Based on the joint request, Mr. Frazier, do you agree that September or after is appropriate?
Yes, Your Honor. The state does have some witness conflict in October, November, and December, but all of the necessary witnesses would be prepared and we could issue those subpoenas once we get that date.
So would it be, are you suggesting September then?
Yes, Your Honor. State's request is September.
All right. And 4 days still estimated if necessary to try the case?
Yes, Judge.
Okay. Any other comments, Mr. Thompson?
No, Your Honor, that's all for me. Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Mr.
Right, Mrs. Fuentes, please announce the dates.
Pretrial, August 17th at 10:30. Calendar call, August 31st at 9 a.m. Trial cycle, September 8th at 9 a.m.
Any others, Mr. Frazier?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, I do notice that Mr. Richards is here and Mr. Ermacora. Mr. Richards, if you could come on up to one of the tables over here.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning, Mr. Richards. And Mr. Ermacora, can you hear us?
Yes, Judge, I can hear you.
All right. And Mr. Richards is self-represented at this time. Mr. Richards, you had filed a motion for continuance and for costs for transcripts, I believe.
Yes, Your Honor.
And the court has just entered an order denying that as facially insufficient at this time. Which one is insufficient? Both, and the order does go into the reasons therefore. However, you can refile those motions in accordance with the order, and I am willing to hear them. We had, I believe, Ms. Fuentes, is it the 16th or the 17th that those motions had been, the continuance motion had been set for?
Let me double check, Your Honor.
And let me make sure Ms. Rumley or colleague is monitoring. I forgot to.
I did file amended versions of those.
Okay.
Clarify.
All right. So Ms. Brown, do you know if Ms.
Yes.
Rumley?
I'm covering for Ms. Rumley this morning, Your Honor.
Brown is covering today. So in any event, so you've made some additional filings, Mr. Richards?
Yes, I amended the continuance in the motion to cost.
Okay.
Maybe explain it better and maybe that's why.
That was the issue. So what it will do is I'm going to go ahead, and we had reserved Ms. Fuentes for those, the continuance motion, and I'll add the other one that's been also amended. And that was on what date, Ms. Fuentes?
The 16th at 2 o'clock.
On the 16th at 2 o'clock?
Correct.
That was already previously set.
Yeah, and I was gonna ask if we were gonna hear all of those motions that day or.
Yes, any pending motions, I will ask Ms. Brown to address on the 16th.
Okay.
In the meantime, the parties will get the order on the original motions that I had denied them originally. So the calendar call probably should be moved, Ms. Brown, to the same date as the motions. I don't see any reason. We had to change the calendar call from the 22nd to the 14th. I think we should just address the motion and the calendar call on the 16th. Any objection, Ms. Brown?
Your Honor, I would agree. Ms. Rumley's request is this case remains set for trial, so I am fine with proceeding in that manner. Just for my education, can you tell me what motions will be addressed on the 16th?
We have a continuance motion as well as a motion for cost to cover the cost of transcripts, Mr. Richards.
Yeah.
Is there another motion?
There were two others filed, the compel and the dismiss, and that's what I was inquiring about. That was gonna be heard on the 23rd.
Okay, those were filed back in March, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, those were filed, and I think Mr. Ermacora, were they not stricken as a nullity because you were representing as counsel at the time?
I never saw.
I certainly didn't adopt, I certainly never adopted them, Judge. I don't know if they were formally stricken.
All right, so if they were not stricken, I would ask the state to address those also then. If they were,
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear Mr. Richards. What motions were they?
so it's a motion to continue, a motion for cost to cover costs of transcripts, as well as motion to compel and a motion to dismiss.
Okay.
Now, those were filed in March, is that right?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. And apparently, Madam Clerk, do you show whether there was ever any order entered, because he would have been represented at the time, whether those were stricken as a nullity? It doesn't appear that they were. So since they weren't, I'll go ahead and address them as filed.
We would also have some other words to the court. I found out her report has been great with Mr. Standby, by the way, I just wanted to say that. I found out that 5 depositions were done. The state and my past attorneys lied about what those depositions were. The reason I need these fingerprint analysts to depose is 85% of fingerprint examiners make all say that they're taken from the President's Council Advisors on Practice Technology, September 2016.
Excuse me for interrupting us, Richards, but that'll be part of the motion hearing. So I don't want to hear that today because I've got a lot of cases. That'll be.
Well, I am going down to the state attorney's office, 2 testing depositions today as advised by number 4. So hopefully they can give me a date on that or email me. The state keeps telling me I have to go through court administration and I have to have Irma Cora do it for me. But Irma Cora is advising me that since I'm representing myself, I have to do it. And in this instance, I do believe Irma Cora.
Okay. Well, I am not going to intervene at this point in that. As a self-represented individual, I cannot give you advice on what to do. So you have Mr. Irma Cordes. So, Ms. Brown, at this point, the state is seeking to go forward in this trial cycle, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor, that is Ms. Rumley's request, and she had requested that Your Honor leave the matter as set on the 16th, which Your Honor is doing. I'll advise her that she'll need to be prepared to address all of Mr. Richards' motions, but the state intent is to try Mr. Richards this trial cycle.
Now, as the state has already been hearing, we do have some in custody serious charge cases, some with special victims, etc. That is something that when we talk on the 16th and address Mr. Richards' motions, I will need to consider as to whether it should remain on this trial cycle or not, given that Mr. Richards is out of custody, aside from his grounds, which I'll also consider. But I'm just putting the state on notice that
yes, Your Honor,
if the state, my recollection was the state was saying this is going to require significant witness mobilization for the state.
I believe so. It's been a while, Your Honor, since I've been heavily involved in Mr. Richards' case, but from my recollection, there are a number of witnesses listed, and Ms. Rumley will be in the best position to advise the court. She is aware, while this case is old, she is aware that the court is prioritizing in custodies, given the current backlog that the court system generally is suffering. So she'll obviously can address that with the court on Wednesday.
Right, we're just starting to reopen, and that's something I will have to take into account. So Ms. Rumley needs to be prepared to address that in addition to Mr. Richards' other motions.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so I'm going to leave things currently as set, subject to what happens on the 16th then, Mr. Richards.
All right, the defense does want to know until they need the depositions are taken, and the court does have a correct answer on the existence of evidence relating to charges for probable cause in the affidavit. I do object to any trial.
Okay, we'll address that further on the 16th.
Thank you, Your Honor. I do appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Sure. Ms. Brown, Ms. Rumley will appear on that date, is that correct?
That's my understanding, yes, Your Honor.
And Ms. Fuentes, again, what's the date and time?
June 16th at 2 o'clock.
All right, we'll see you then, Mr. Richards.
Thank you very much, Your Honor.
One moment. All right. Let me ask if there's any other. Mr. Vitale was here in person. Are you subject to any time constraint, Mr. Vitale?
I'm not, Your Honor. I was here because my client had to show up.
Okay. Let me ask, I have a number of other counsel remotely. Is anyone else facing a time conflict at this point?
Your Honor, this is Steve Gregosa. My phone is about to go dead, and I don't have a charger with me.
Which case, Mr. Gregosa?
I only have one case, John Morris.
Morris?
Morris.
All right, let me turn to that.
And this is with Miss Brown, Judge.
Page 30, Your Honor.
20 CF 1147, defense comments?
Judge, we just deposed I found a defense witness who was just deposed. I'm waiting for the state's response as to what the contradictory responses that the defense witness gave to the state's victim, alleged victim. So I'm waiting for a response for that. And if I asked if they will oppose me taking another deposition of the alleged victim if there's an issue. So I'm waiting for Ms. Brown to respond to that.
Is the defense able to go forward in this trial cycle?
No, Your Honor, not yet.
And what is the reason, Mr. Gregosa?
Because I just gave them a defense witness who contradicts the state's witness. And I want to know, I don't know what the state's witness response is. So if the state is not willing to either give a plea offer, defense willing to take, or if we're going to go to trial, I'd like to be able to prepare for trial knowing what the alleged victim how the victim will respond to our witnesses' statements that contradict what she's saying.
Now, this case was set for this cycle from November of last year. Is there any reason this disclosure was not made earlier?
I just found about this witness a couple of weeks ago, Judge.
Ms. Brown, state's position?
Your Honor, I have spoken with Mr. Gregosa and I will get him a plea offer. I have not yet had the opportunity to review the witness's deposition and the victims, but the state in a case like this is not going to agree to a redeposition. If Mr. Gregosa thinks it's pertinent, I think he'll need to file a motion. We'll need to address it. I don't know how substantive the differences are going to be since I was not at the victim's deposition. and frankly, how much of it will be admissible and how much of it is not going to be probative given the nature of the witness's testimony, and what may or may not be protected under rape shield.
Is the state,
So,
is the state seeking to go forward in this cycle?
Your Honor, at this point, the state's witnesses are available. I understand in terms of age, this case is not quite a year old, but the state is otherwise ready.
Is the state objecting to continuance?
Your Honor, given the age of this case and the fact that we've already been done depositions within 10 months, I'm going to defer to the court. Mr. Gregoza has been working on the case and things have been moving forward.
Based on this being the first pretrial conference, the unanticipated recent disclosure and the other comments made, the court will continue the matter for trial to allow these other issues to be resolved, which may or may not require motions. This defendant is in custody. Ms. Fuentes, it's estimated to be 3 days trial. Is that correct, Mr. Gregoza, Ms. Brown?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, and Your Honor, my request would be, Your Honor, September cycle. I believe the August cycle is fairly short, and I have some childcare issues during the August cycle at present that I don't believe I'm going to be able to work around. And if Mr. Gregoza is going to file a motion and redepose the victim with court approval, I think that would give us ample time to accomplish that.
His state's witnesses are available in September?
They are available. I believe that cycle starts September 8th, Your Honor. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes, the state's witnesses are available during the September 8th trial cycle.
Any objection, Mr. Gregoza, to the September date?
No, Your Honor.
Approved. Ms. Fuentes, the dates?
Pre-trial August 17th at 10:30. Calendar call August 31st at 9 a.m. Trial cycle September 8th at 9 a.m.
Okay, thank you. Any others, Mr. Gregoza?
No, that's all I have, Judge. Thank you very much.
Any other counsel that requires expedited calling? All right, if not, then let me go ahead and take them as they appear. Mr. Russo or Mr. Carr for the defense, Ms. Wilson on Peter Bedrosian, 20 CF 1204.
Good morning, Dominic Russo for Mr. Bedrosian. We're ready for trial.
All right, anticipated length of trial?
It's more of a question for the state, I think.
Right. Ms. Wilson, state able
Your
to
Honor,
report?
Yeah, I would anticipate it'd be up to at least 5 days. We do have some expert witnesses that would be testifying, plus we have a lot of civilian witnesses. However, Your Honor, the state is going to ask for a continuance in this case. I do have one of the detectives that put out back November, but that was before we had the 4-month list, and that was all as far as it would go out, so we were unaware that he would be out. We have another one that's just asking to be out. However, he is under subpoena. But the biggest concern is we do have older cases, especially the murder case, that's more serious, and who are requesting to be number one because they have to fly in victims and witnesses from out of state. In this case, Your Honor, our victim lives in California. In addition to that, I have tried to call several of the civilian witnesses. One's voicemail is not set up, so I haven't been able to get a hold of them. The other ones is just local numbers. They are not cell phone numbers, and they're not answering. So based on the age, I'm going to suspect that they may be winter residents. And I've also did an amended witness list. I have 2 more witnesses that unfortunately they did not provide phone numbers to me. And I'm going to reach out to detectives, see if they can locate them. So the defendant is not in custody. So at this time, the state would ask this go out to, I have no Leo witness problems in September, and I could also do some juggling, and I could do it in the month of October also.
Is any unfair prejudice to the defense from the state's continuance request?
No, sir.
Is there an objection from the defense to that extent?
No, sir.
And this was there is an essential witness, you said, Ms. Wilson, that was not noted as having previously put in for leave. Is that correct?
That's correct. Just on the, as we had stated earlier, we were using a witness availability list that we have changed off of that only would go out 4 months. So it did not show that this detective was out during the week of trial.
Defendant is out of custody, is that right?
Yes,
sir.
All right. Any competency issues that will be affected by the passage of time, Mr. Russo or Mr. Carr?
No, sir.
Okay. Then based on the discussion, state's motion granted. September dates, please.
Your Honor, just to note, we do have about 55 cases set in September.
Both sides are amenable to October, or is that a witness issue for the state?
no, Your Honor, I can, like I said, with some juggling, I could do on different days some of the different officers. So I think we could go with October.
Defense does not object?
Correct.
Granted, Ms. Fuentes.
Pretrial, September 21st at 10:30. Calendar call, October 5th at 9 a.m. Trial cycle, October 11th at 9 a.m.
Okay, thank you. Next
Thank
is
you.
David Billy and Mr. Cox, Mr. Frazier, 17 CF 1381.
And actually, on behalf of the state, covering for Mr. Frazier, Your Honor.
All right, is Mr. Cox available? I don't see any appearance. I'll recall that matter.
Your Honor, I have two more.
Oh, okay, Mr. Russo, go ahead.
Yes, Jonathan Rogers, case number 20 CF 1354.
Okay, one moment.
Page 45.
All right, Mr. Ashby for the state defense comments.
That's going to be a negotiated plea.
Are we able to enter the plea on the 28th of June, or is time of the essence?
No, that would be fine. June 28th.
Is that what we're suggesting, Ms. Fuentes?
Correct.
June 28 at 9 a.m. for plea agreement?
That works
Thank
for the state, Your Honor.
Mr. Ashby?
That works for the state, Your Honor.
It is set, thank you. The other case, Mr.
Thank you.
Russo?
The last one is Pastor Yanez, case number 20 CF 487.
And Mr. Ashby again for the state comments.
Defense is ready for trial.
Length of trial anticipated, Mr. Ashby?
Your Honor, length of trial not to exceed 3 days.
Plea offer extended and considered.
Yes, sir.
Any other discovery or motion issues?
No, sir.
And Your Honor,
Yes.
state would be requesting continuance. This is a similar situation where the leave request was put in prior to the case being set for trial, but unfortunately wasn't in our system because they only extended out 4 months.
No objection.
So we would request a continuance, Your Honor.
When can the state be ready? Is time of the essence for either side?
No, sir.
Ms. Fuentes, we're setting October, is that correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
All right, those dates, and state has witness availability then?
Yes, Your Honor, I'm confirming that now. Yes, we have a state witness
And
availability
again,
now.
this witness leave request was put in prior to the state system being overhauled?
Yes, Your Honor.
Approved, October dates?
Pretrial, September 21st at 10:30. Calendar call, October 5th at 9 a.m. Trial cycle, October 11th at 9 a.m.
Going back to the order, and if any counsel are starting to get pressed for time with conflicting court appearance, let me know. Otherwise, Tyler Chalmers, 20 CF 682, Mr. Verderamo, Ms. Mason.
Good morning, Your Honor. My client's going to accept the state's offer to a misdemeanor offense of resisting without violence. We're set for June 11th for a plea.
Keep as set.
Yes.
Any comments from the state?
No, Your Honor.
Approved. We'll see you on that date.
There's one last question. May I submit, since it's going to be a misdemeanor offense, may I submit a plea in absentia paperwork in lieu of her personal appearance to the misdemeanor charge?
Any objections?
Judge, Yes, I mean, I think because it's going to be a lesser, so it is a plea to a misdemeanor, but I think that this is not one that should be done in absentia. I mean, this in county court, I would agree to it, but not in felony court, even though it's going to be a plea to a misdemeanor.
Any reason she cannot attend?
No, that's fine. I'll have her, she's lives in Tampa. I'll have her come down.
Remains as set. James Curry, Mr. Verderamo, Ms. Wilson, 20 CF 462 and 1172.
Judge, on these cases, Ms. Wilson and I have been discussing a resolution. I'm going to keep them set for trial with the understanding that we're not too far off from the resolution.
All right, state announcing ready?
Yes, on 20 CF 1172, the state is ready for trial on that case. There are some witness availability issues on the 20 CF 462, but we've been trying to just keep the cases together. So as long as we know which case we're going on, that's not a problem.
So number 1172 to be tried first.
Right.
And remains with the dates, Ms. Fuentes?
Calendar call June 14th at 9 a.m. Trial cycle June 28th at 9 a.m.
Emil Destin, 18 CF 1028, as well as the second case number, which is 1030, Ms. Vora Puglisi and Ms. Karamis for the defense, Mr. Frazier or co-counsel for the state. Grading?
And I ask on behalf of the state of Florida for a covering for Mr. Frazier.
All right. Beginning with the defense, either counsel wish to address it?
Good morning, Your Honor. Diane Karamis on behalf of Mr. Destin. I believe Ms. Puglisi is on as well, but I'll address it for the defense. We received your order, Your Honor. However, there's still a pending motion that's related to the contents of the motion to compel that Your Honor denied, but similar, very dissimilar arguments. I don't believe that Your Honor's order addressed that motion, and it still needs to be addressed. I don't know if Your Honor wishes to address it today. I know that Your Honor has a busy schedule, or maybe to reset it. We are set for the July trial cycle. So that's up to Your Honor. I don't know if Your Honor wants
need to look at that. What's the style and date of the motion?
Sure. It was filed February 12th, 2020, and it's a motion for issuance of an order directing the Naples Police Department to disclose documents requested.
How is that different than the one that was just ruled on?
Well, Judge, the motion to compel the motion to compel that was just ruled on was based on Brady. It was based on the state's obligation to provide us the records. This is just based on a need to know and right to investigate. It's via Chapter 119, but the Naples Police Department has claimed an exemption, which I believe we are exempted from that exemption, if you will.
So the other motion addressed Brady, Giglio, as well as the Rachel's Law. That was the one that was ruled on. This is more public records based.
On Rachel's Law, yes, correct, Your Honor. Rachel's Law is merely the obligation of the police department to maintain the file that we're requesting. So since Your Honor ruled that it's not the state's obligation to provide us the file, we would like to seek review of the file via Chapter 119 avenue, which we have sent to the Naples Police Department, but they said that the content is privileged. And if I can just quote the language so that Your Honor is aware of what language they used. They cited to Florida Statute 914.28, subsection 6B, claiming limit availability. And they said that the availability is limited to those within law enforcement agency or law enforcement community having a need to know or having a need to review those records, or to those whose access has been required by court process or court order. So as officers of the court, Your Honor, we're asking that Your Honor direct the Naples Police Department to let us review those records.
All right, I will.
Your Honor,
I will address that motion in advance of the trial cycle, but Mr. Ashby, any comment?
As I'm covering for Mr. Frazier today, the state is not prepared today to argue any motion or to address the comments made by defense at this time.
My understanding, though, Mr. Ashby, that this motion was already previously argued and was taken under advisement. Is that correct, Ms. Puglisi or Ms. Karamis?
I do believe it was addressed at the last hearing cycle. We asked for Your Honor in the alternative, if Your Honor was going to deny the motion to compel, to grant the motion directing the Naples Police Department to let us review. So if Your Honor needs further briefings, I can certainly submit those in writing, but that's the gist of our argument.
Yeah, I believe this was already pending, Mr. Ashby, for a decision. I just simply overlooked this one, issuing the ruling on the other one.
And Judge, if I may, I did speak with Mr. Frazier. So we did discuss this. At the end of the day, depending on what the court's ruling is, it will decide whether we need to file a motion to strike the CI. I believe we mentioned that to Your Honor before. If Your Honor grants this, then we wouldn't need to do that. If Your Honor denies it, then we would need to do that motion. And then the only question is, we're set for the calendar call next week. So I just don't know timing-wise with the court's ruling and how that will work. I know Mr. Frazier said he would be available to try the case on the second trial week, starting on the 6th of July, because that's when he had his witnesses available. We do not have an objection with starting that second week. Again, that is just kind of with the caveat, depending on the ruling of the motion and whether we need to file a motion to strike. So I don't know if Your Honor wants to just keep it and roll it over for next week and we can deal with it at that time, or we're at the court's pleasure.
Mr. Ashby, is the state seeking to set the case for the second week of July trial?
Yes, Your Honor. State wants case remaining as set with this trial starting on the second week.
And it would not exceed 4 days. Is that what both sides estimate?
That's correct, Your Honor.
And
Yes,
so
Your Honor.
I will grant the request to move it to the 6th for the start date, Ms. Fuentes, but the calendar call remains the same. The court will review the motion and attempt to address it in the interim.
Very good, Judge.
Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Fuentes? So
I'm sorry?
What are the dates, Ms. Fuentes?
Calendar call June 14th at 9 a.m. Trial cycle June 28th at 9 a.m.
Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
Nothing from
All
the
right,
state.
well, one other thing, has there been any plea offer extended and considered for both cases?
We are actually still in discussions, Judge. I spoke with Mr. Frazier last week. He did convey something, but said that maybe we could resolve it. So we are working on that as well and may have some more movement next week as well to report.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Luis Diaz, 20 CF 493, as well as 20 CF 494, Mr. Bergeramo and Ms. Wilson. I'm assuming Mr. Bergeramo, Mr. Barger's name needs to be removed as counsel.
Yes.
So directed. Go ahead, Mr. Bergeramo.
There's also a third case, 494 and 495.
Right.
All three cases set for June 11th for a plea.
This case is also set for plea in all cases.
All cases, yes.
Any update from the state?
Nothing for the state, Your Honor.
All right, so it will remain as set, subject to cancellation once the plea is entered on the 11th. Very well. Next is Kinshasa Dundas, Mr. Roth for the defense, Ms. Gutmore or co-counsel for the state, 18 CF 73.
Good morning, Your Honor. Maria Boss on behalf of the state.
Ratings?
Yes, Your Honor. Martin Roth for Ms. Dundas, and she's also signed in, I believe.
Very well. Greetings all. It's currently set on the June 28th trial cycle. Any updates?
Yes, Your Honor. I have two matters set for trial, both in front of Judge Cook in U.S. District Court the week of July 6th. So this case is ready for trial, and I ask that if the case goes, it goes the first week as opposed to the second week.
Any state updates?
Your Honor, as of right now, we don't have any scheduling conflicts. The state agrees. I think this case is ready to be tried at this point. I anticipate it'll be a 2-day trial. I don't know if Mr. Roth concurs with that assessment.
I think that's correct. I also wanted to add that a plea offer was extended yesterday. I'll be reviewing it with Ms. Dundas, and the case may get resolved.
Very well. It will remain as scheduled, however, to be noted, first week only. Is that the request, Mr. Roth?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any objection from the state as to that determination?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Fuentes.
Calendar call June 14th at 9 a.m. Trial cycle June 28th at 9 a.m.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good
Thank
day.
you, Your Honor.
Next, we go to Marcel Goncalves, 18 CF 495. Mr. Berry, our co-counsel, and Ms. Brown.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Greetings.
I have filed a motion to withdraw. It's set for July 12th. I would suggest you address the status of a trial date at that time.
State's position.
Your Honor, the state has also filed a motion to strike the insanity defense set for July 19th. So my request was going to be that we continue this trial. I understand the victim's family is anxious to have the case resolved. However, we need to address the expert issue. And now with Mr. Berry's pending motion to withdraw, we obviously need to address that first before we can move forward with hearing the motion to strike. So I don't have an objection to setting it for a status to address the calendar call or the pretrial conference on July the 12th after the court rules on the motion to withdraw.
So probably then should cancel all dates and reset the calendar call for the date of the motion to withdraw.
I think that would be a fine way to proceed forward. Yes, Your Honor. I would ask that the motion to strike not be canceled from the 19th. I believe that's been set for some time. I understand we may not be able to mobilize to address it then, depending on what happens, but I would suggest we cancel the current calendar call and trial date and then set it to be addressed further on the 12th with Mr. Berry's motion.
Mr. Berry, any thoughts to the contrary?
No, that's fine.
It is approved as discussed. It will keep the state's motion scheduled depending on what happens. All dates currently set are canceled. Calendar call is moved to the motion to withdraw date, which is again what date and time?
July 12th. I think it's 10 o'clock, but I can double check that.
10:30.
10:30.
All right. So calendar call and the motion to withdraw on that day will be scheduled. The state's motion remains set to be determined if heard or not, depending on what happens earlier.
Yes,
Correct.
Your Honor.
Very well.
Thank you. Thanks.
John Hidings, 20 CF 42, Mr. Schneider, Ms. Brown.
Morning, Judge.
Greetings.
Judge, at this point, I would like to leave this case set for the trial. I think if I get a chance to speak to Ms. Brown, who took over the case from Mr. Maresca, there's a very real chance we could resolve it by way of a plea.
No competency issues?
I don't think so, Judge. I haven't seen any. I understand when he was arrested, he was Baker acted, but that was about a year ago or so.
Estimated length of trial not to exceed 3 days?
That's correct.
Yes.
State comments?
Your Honor, I'm fine leaving the case as set. I know Mr. Schneider called me this morning and unfortunately I was in court with Your Honor, so I couldn't speak with him, but he and I will connect.
Remains as set. Ms. Fuentes?
Calendar call June 14th at 9 a.m. Trial cycle June 28th at 9 a.m.
Isameni Hippolyte, Mr. Lucarelli, Ms. Brown, 19 CF 2316.
Good morning, Judge.
Hello.
Mr. Lucarelli here. I'm here with Ms. Hippolyte. I spoke to Ms. Brown. We were trying to work something out, Judge. The problem with is she scores out so high, especially with the victim injury points. Ms. Brown was going to speak to the family of the late victim, who's now deceased, to see about a plea offer, a better plea offer. I think we agreed to leave it set for trial. I would like to set it for that second week if we could do that. I'm going to be on a family vacation. I won't be getting back into town until the 28th.
Okay, length of trial anticipated?
I would say 2 to 3 days.
State agrees to the second week.
That's fine, Your Honor.
Any other discovery or motion comments?
No, I don't believe so.
Ms. Fuentes, dates with the trial commencing only on the second week.
Calendar call June 14th at 9 a.m. Trial cycle June 28th at 9 a.m.
All right. Celso Martinez, 19 CF 1668,
Judge,
Ms. Bauer and Ms. Brown.
Back to that, I think, can we put that on the second week? I thought we did.
It is on the second week.
It is.
Morning, Your Honor.
Hello.
Hi. For Mr. Martinez, I had some issues with the depositions when they were scheduled in April. We didn't have the Spanish interpreter that we needed for the victim. And I didn't reschedule as quickly as I should have. The deposition is currently rescheduled for August. He's out of custody. And I also believe that with a conversation with Ms. Brown, we may be able to resolve this case. So could we put this maybe for a calendar call, if there's one end of July that would be an August trial cycle, so that we could do the deposition if necessary?
Any reason the depositions could not be done prior to the start of trial?
I spoke with the assistant for Ms. Brown, and she said that was the next available date.
Brown.
Your Honor, my understanding is the victim who Ms. Maurer is deposing is unavailable for medical reasons beginning at the end of the month. So I think the August 24th depo date is the most reasonable given the medical issue. I don't have an objection. My request was going to be perhaps, Your Honor, September cycle, which I believe begins September 8th.
Is the state available in October?
Can Your Honor, I apologize. Can you remind me of the October dates?
Ms. Fuentes?
October 11th through October 22nd.
Yes, Your Honor, the state would also be available in October.
All right, then it is moved all dates then with the October dates in mind. Ms. Fuentes?
Pre-trial September 21st at 10:30. Calendar call October 5th at 9 a.m. Trial cycle October 11th at 9 a.m.
All right, Mr. Vitale is up next. He was in the courtroom. Are you connected, Mr. Vitale?
I'll go check those.
Okay, let me take a 5-minute recess. We'll come back and finish the rest of the docket. We'll check with Mr. Vitale, who had been here in the courtroom. 1 moment.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Bobby Booth, Brian Wall. Brian Wall. Oh, Steve, Steve, Young. You're asking for a lot. Yeah, I know. Yeah, you know this cheating, right? Okay. Alright. I like him. Not that funny. I am the best. No. You're catching on, doing great. Jumping right in here. actually doing better than some of the season ones. Really? Better, not seeing more. Not done. Oh. No slam. This one battalion.
All right, we're back. No citing of Mr. Vitale. We'll recall that matter. Next up, Felix Nelson, Mr. Zonas, Mr. Ashby.
Yes, Your Honor.
Greetings.
Greetings, Your Honor. Jason Schwartz on behalf of Mr. Zonas for Felix Nelson.
Any defense comments?
No, Your Honor, ready for trial.
Estimated length of trial, Mr. Ashby?
2 to 3 days, Your Honor.
Has a plea offer been extended, Mr. Ashby?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any discovery or motion issues for the defense?
No, Your Honor.
All right, it remains as set, Ms. Fuentes.
And Your Honor, my apologies. The state would request we start this trial the second week. The victim is out the first week of the trial cycle.
Calendar call June 14th at 9 a.m. Trial cycle June 28th at 9 a.m.
Defense all right with the second week?
Give me 1 second, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
It is set. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Joshua Nopariani, Mr. Verdramo, Mr. Ashby, 20 CF 881.
Derek Verramo on behalf of Mr. Notoriani. We have depositions scheduled for June 15th of the witnesses. We can keep the case as set, but we might be a little close. Maybe I have to move it to the second week.
Trial length estimated to be 3 days.
I believe so. That's accurate.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Ashby, any updates?
No, Your Honor. No objection to the second week, where we can leave it as set for the 28th.
Is the defense asking for it to be set for the second week or leave it as is?
It depends on, unfortunately, these depositions have been continued a few times, so it's going to have to, at the conclusion of the depots, I'll have a better idea, but I just...
I'll leave it as set.
That's fine.
And if there's an issue, the parties can either stipulate or bring it by motion.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Derek Ulmer, Mr. Verdramo, Ms. Mason, 20 CF 889.
As we get an offer from the state, my client will accept. We can set this for a plea. I heard a date, I believe the 28th.
That is correct, at 9 a.m. State available?
Yes, Your Honor.
If not resolved on that date, it would proceed to trial that cycle then?
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor.
Very well. Next is Miguel Perez Labrada, Mr. Verdramo, Ms. Wilson, 20 CF 700.
June 28th for a plea, Judge.
State agrees?
I thought this was previously set on the 11th. Am I wrong on that?
That was Diaz. I don't know if this one was.
Okay.
What's the preference from the state?
No, Your Honor, I just had written down that I had it on that, if I could have just one moment.
It's not set for a plea. It's set for trial the 28th.
Ms.
Right.
Wilson,
No.
You're confused with the other case that I have with you that I said Luis Diaz is on the 11th.
No, I know. I just thought when we talked that this one was also, if I may just have one moment, Your Honor. I don't see any issues. We can do that, Your Honor.
So on the 28th?
Yes.
Very well. Looks like we then skip over to a lot of pages. I'm not sure if that's all right. Let me see. Looks like we did address Valentine. Corey Williams, also Harrison's right. 20 CF 1299, Mr. Day, Mr. Ashby.
Good morning, Your Honor. Thomas Gorman from Law Office of Donald Day on behalf of Corey Williams.
Updates?
Say again, Judge, I'm sorry.
Any update?
Judge, we have been in discussion. It looks like we're not able to reach a resolution on this matter. We'd ask that it remain set for trial. However, I need to inform the court that Mr. Day is unavailable to try it later in the cycle. He would be available to try it on the 28th or the 29th, and then he's going to be out for an extended period of time, going the 30th onward for the rest of this trial cycle. It's not a lengthy trial, Judge. It's state has one witness. We may have one witness as well. We believe it's a one-day case. So our request would to have it continue to remain set for trial, either the 28th or the 29th. As I said, it's a no valid driver's license, Judge.
I think it is problematic because the court is covering drug court on the 29th. And then today is unavailable. It's a first pretrial conference. Any objection to resetting it for a later trial cycle, Mr. Ashby?
No, Your Honor.
Defense motion then to set it later as more appropriate is granted. And Mr. Ashby, based on witnesses, where would you rather set this? I think we're looking to set in October unless either side wishes an earlier date.
Yeah, says no witness issues that we can see. My witness is available to the end of the year.
And our client's out of custody, Judge. We're not yet a year old, so whatever the court's preference.
Does Ms. Fuentes is the preference to go to the October trial cycle?
Correct, Your Honor.
Please announce the dates.
Pre-trial September 21st at 10:30, calendar call October 5th at 9 a.m., trial cycle October 11th, 9 a.m.
Marlon Williams, 20 CF 1158, Ms. Orange and Ms. Brown. We have all the colors covered now. They actually go very well together at Halloween. Nice color combination.
As long as you said it and not me, Judge.
Coming from the Midwest, you get all the fall colors. Those two are primary. All right, so this is 20 CF 1158. I've announced the council's appearances. Any updates?
Yes, Your Honor. We had depositions on this case a couple weeks ago. I do have a few more depositions to take. They are currently scheduled and noticed for, I believe they're next month. I'm sorry, Your Honor, I had it up.
I believe it's end of next month.
Yes, at the end of next month. Thank you, Ms. Brown. Welcome back. Yes, on July 22nd, we have 2 depositions set. And there's one more that I'm coordinating with Ms. Brown's assistant on getting set. But if we could continue this out to perhaps the next trial cycle, these officers weren't available. They weren't available for depositions. And I believe Ms. Brown's schedule with the trial next week, she didn't have any availability to have those depositions taken before this trial cycle.
Any other substantial defense motions prior to trial?
None at this time, Your Honor.
Previously stated that it did not anticipate child hearsay motions. Any
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. Any objection from the state to continuance?
No, Your Honor, my request would be that October cycle. I think the next upcoming cycle is August. It's a short cycle. And again, I do have some childcare issues for a portion of that. But my witnesses all do appear available for the October 11th through October 22nd trial cycle.
Length of trial anticipated?
I would say 3 days.
Has a plea offer been extended and considered?
None, not yet, Your Honor.
Okay. Any other witness issues for the state?
No, Your Honor.
So I believe October was suggested and acceptable to both sides?
That's fine, Your Honor.
It is the first pretrial conference. Ms. Fuentes, dates?
Pre-trial September 21st at 10:30, calendar call October 5th at 9 a.m., trial cycle October 11th at 9 a.m.
On a side note, Ms. Orange, I believe you were the instructor when my daughter Gabriella competed for, was it Gulf Coast High? Yeah, they got second place that year, right?
Yes, first the following year.
Yeah, you got the following year. But anyway, time passes. Gabriella's now completed her first year of law school up at the U of Illinois, Chicago. And she did end up at the top 1/4 of her class. So
That's
far.
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I offer that as a comment and I guess as a side note, as a disclosure, Ms. Brown, in case that's a concern for the state.
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay, very well. All right. All set on Mr. Williams. And did we announce the dates, Ms. Fuentes?
We did, Your Honor.
Okay, very good. All right. And I see Mr. Vitale has now joined us. Yeah, remotely. Which case, Mr. Vitale?
Judge, I have Vladimir Michel. The case number is 19 CF 1987.
All right. And for the state, Ms. Brown?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Any defense comments?
I think we're set for trial on the 28th. And I think we have, if I read the email correctly, the calendar call on the 22nd is now on the 14th. So I have those 2 dates.
The defense all set with that?
Yeah, that's fine, Judge. I think it's probably a 1-day trial. I don't really, there's just a couple of witnesses, probably 3-4 witnesses for the state.
Plea offer extended and considered?
I haven't spoken to Mr. Michel at all.
Okay. Any state comments?
Your Honor, I suspect this will be more likely 2 days, and I do note that the victim may need an interpreter, but we are otherwise ready to go.
State will be coordinating a Creole interpreter?
Yes, as necessary.
And state okay with the current schedule for trial?
Yes, Your Honor, I am.
All right, dates and times?
Calendar call June 14th at 9 a.m. Trial cycle June 28th at 9 a.m.
No defense discovery or motion issues pending?
Judge, there's really nothing pending. We attempted to do a deposition of the victim at least twice. So unless there's an updated address or something that we should.
Defense can depose that witness before testifying?
That's fine. I'll be happy to do that. That seems to be the only way to get this thing moved forward. So.
Very well. It is set. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I believe we had 1 or 2 matters that we said we needed to recall. I thought the Billy case was one of them.
Yes, Your Honor. Brian Ashton behalf of the state, covered for Mr. Frazier.
Any reports from Mr. Cox?
No, Your Honor. I did have a note from Mr. Frazier that the defense counsel has current issues with the Florida Bar. And I did verify that with the Florida Bar website. That they are currently pending. Mr. Frazier's request was to continue the case to have that addressed by the defendant as well as by counsel. He is available in August, September, or November for both David Billy cases.
Well, my only concern is that that's probably something that needs to be known earlier rather than sooner. I mean, I think I'm going to keep it as currently set and address this at calendar call with the understanding that, is the state announcing ready?
I believe this, we have one moment, Your Honor. Yeah, I'm seeing several witnesses who have leave, who is conflicting with the current cycle. Well, for one of the cases, Your Honor, the 20 CF 1484, there is no witness leave issues. However, in 17 CF 1381, there are several witnesses who have leave issues.
Well, I think I need to address this. I'm concerned in a number of regards about this. So I'm going to leave it as set, and I'm going to have my office reach out to Mr. Cox's office, and I will need to address all issues, including the state's witness issues on the calendar call date.
Yes, Your Honor.
So it will remain as set for now.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Fuentes, would you make a note to have Melissa follow up with Mr. Cox's office for the calendar call date? Did we have any others to recall? Any of the prosecutors recall?
I thought I'm aware, Your Honor.
Ms. Fuentes, anything we need to recall?
I don't think so, Your Honor.
All right, then